What's up, NFL fans? Welcome back to another episode of Four Down Territory. I'm your host, Luke Easterling, alongside Doug Farrar. As always, Doug, our first NFL playoff version of this show. We've got a week of playoff action in the books.
Woohoo!
We'll start in Dallas, obviously, where the Cowboys were eliminated in rather embarrassing fashion. 49ers. Everyone's looking at whether Jerry Jones should fire Mike McCarthy already and start over. There's compelling evidence that Dallas would be better off with a new head coach. But if you're Jerry Jones, what do you do here?
Well, if I'm Doug Farrar, I've been writing about Mike McCarthy since 2013, back at Sports Illustrated, and I've never seen the appeal. But at his opening press conference after Dallas hired him, McCarthy intimated that he lied about watching every Cowboys play from the previous season, saying, quote unquote, direct quote, "You do what you have to do to get a job." All right, Jerry Jones, I would have fired McCarthy right there for cause and dared him to come after the money. I don't see any reason at all to keep McCarthy on board. Kellen Moore runs the offense. Dan Quinn runs the defense. They're probably both gone. McCarthy is responsible for in-game management. That's his job. And the you had one job thing, he's been the NFL's worst coach with it over the last two seasons, and certainly in 2021. It's not just the draw play and the clock debacle and all that. It's everything. It was, the fake punt and not getting everyone in, and then the delay of game. I can point to 20 different situations just this season where McCarthy himself screwed it up and said, yeah, I screwed it up, but it'll be better, and it's never better. When you have a head coach who is a massive liability regarding in-game decisions, that's his main responsibility. He doesn't call offense, which is one of the reasons the Cowboys got in the playoffs in the first place. He brings nothing of note to the table in other areas. I'm not trying to be mean here. It's just the way it is. If I'm Jerry Jones, the only reason I'm keeping McCarthy is because I don't want to admit how wrong I was. And to be honest, Jerry has a problem with this in head coaches in the past. But there are times when you just have to just spit the bit and move on. And I think that's why do you bring him back? Give me one reason. Okay, Mike McCarthy did this. Mike McCarthy did X, so the Cowboys should keep him because Y. I don't see anything to, any reason to bring him back.
Doug, I can't remember if it was in your Fatal Flaw article, but didn't you say word for word that that was your biggest concern about the Cowboys?
The Cowboys' primary fatal flaw coming into the playoffs is Mike McCarthy's clock management. We can put up the part of the article as a graphic for this video if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no excuse, and Jerry kind of got at this, right? There's no excuse to have that much talent on both sides of the ball and to still end up with this result, and a large part of that being because your head coach couldn't handle his one job, right? I think he's absolutely more of a liability than an asset right now, and the question will be, like you said, will Jerry have the guts to admit that he made a big mistake after just one season? But because we kind of know Jerry, I think I'll believe that when I see it.
Well, I would say that the thing to do would be to promote Dan Quinn to head coach, but Dan Quinn has the one thing Jerry doesn't like in a head coach. He's got leverage, because Dan's going to get a job somewhere, so I don't see it happening.
No, I agree with you. We're going to stay in the NFC for our second down here, and another head coach who experienced a lot of pain in the wild card round was Arizona's Kliff Kingsbury, who saw his Cardinals get blown out by the Rams on Monday night. The Cards finished with an 11-7 record after an 8-1 start. And in 2020, they finished 8-8 and out of the playoffs after starting 5-2. So if you go back to Kingsbury's time at Texas Tech, bad finishes after great starts, it's kind of his thing, right?
Collapse after collapse at Tech.
Every time. Now, team owner of the Cardinals, Michael Bidwill, made it clear after the 2020 season that the goal was to get better this time around. Has Kingsbury done enough to keep his job in the next season?
And by the way, he's doing this with Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray. Including that blowout, 24-25-1 after 3 full seasons. I'm not sure there's enough to ensure his continued employment, except for Kingsbury's first season in Arizona, where halfway through the season he adjusted his 10 personnel stuff and got a whole NFL playbook together and they started to look good. It's kind of that Sean McVay thing where defenses adjust to you and maybe it doesn't work out. And of course, McVay's advantage in the wild card win was that he was playing Arizona's defense. And this season, it wasn't just the offense that fell apart. They dropped from third in DVOA in the first half of the season to 22nd in the second half. The defense flipped from second to 19th. The secondary fell apart. Hello, Rasul Douglas in Green Bay. Whoops. If Kingsbury wants to get past his own tendencies, he'll have to be more adaptive as an offensive play caller. He'll have to be more mindful of the use of his top draft picks. And you run DraftWire, so you tell me, Isaiah Simmons, David Collins, where are they? Zayvon Collins is playing like 5 snaps a game. We took him in the first round. And Steve Keim, the GM, has been all about versatile defenders going back to like Deion Buchanan. I mean, this is what it's like they draft players for the prototype and they don't use them. I'm not really sure what the thought process is. Given what Bidwill said after the 2020 season, if Kingsbury was booted, I mean, it would be somewhat of a surprise, but not completely.
No, I don't think it'd be a surprise, to be honest. And like you said, once you see that pattern of things getting worse when it matters and not better over and over and over again, that's a huge red flag, right? I mean, I don't think helps.
That's not just this season or last season. That's going back to what, 2015?
Exactly.
That's 2016. It's a long time.
And I don't think it helps Kingsbury's case that there are some really great candidates in this hiring cycle. You've always got a couple, right? But I think there's a lot of coaches on the market up for these head coaching jobs that the Cardinals could easily look and say, you know what, let's take our chance. It's a good draft class for head coaches this year. Let's go in a different direction. I definitely think that you could do better than a guy who was fired from his own alma mater, right, for not being able to do this, for not being able to.
He got Todd Graham, didn't he?
It was rough. I mean, you're repeating the same patterns over and over. And I think one of the biggest problems is Kyler Murray's regression. I mean, you are the offensive guru, right? You're supposed to be, the guy that can maximize a dynamic quarterback. When he starts to look really bad and starts to regress, that's a huge problem for me if you're supposed to be this offensive genius, right? I think that Bidwill has to have his doubts at this point that he's the right guy to maximize Kyler's potential and as well as the rest of the team.
Well, USA Today's Josina Anderson spoke to a Cardinals source after the playoff loss, and that source said, "We believe that if we ran the ball 25 times and had no turnovers against the Rams, we would win considerably." Anytime you have one of those run the ball 25-time guys on your staff, unless they make really good coffee, get them out of there. It doesn't work.
We're not doing that. We're not doing the Matt Rule thing.
Correlation, causation, hi. Just saying.
Matt Rule says hello.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to stay in the NFC again, but we're going to go draft with this one. The Eagles go into this offseason with the 15th, 16th, and 19th pick in this draft. So if they want to get themselves a franchise quarterback, I'd feel like no team is in better position to do that. Maybe the Jets or the Giants. They each have 2 top 10 picks. The Jets obviously aren't switching quarterbacks yet, but after what you've seen from Jalen Hurts this season, do you move forward with him and hope for that continued progression, or have you seen enough at this point?
I really liked how Jalen Hurts in his rookie season reacted to Doug Peterson putting him in these like fourth and impossible situations, and he would keep converting him, and I thought, ooh, we got something here. But when I evaluate quarterbacks, I look at 2 things: what's easy to fix and what isn't. And among the things that aren't easy to fix are field reading, pocket awareness, and that quick sense of who's open and who isn't. You have to isolate and anticipate. And I like Hurts as a developmental guy, but he is a massive, potentially unfixable flaw in his quiver. He bails from the pocket even when he has protection, and this limits his reads. It forces him into bad situations. In the loss to the Buccaneers, and I you saw this because you run Buckswire. Hurts rolled to his left too soon on at least 2 plays in that game. One resulted in a near interception by Jamel Dean. I'm sure Jamel wants that one back. And then as I was finishing the article on that pick, he threw the actual interception to Mike Edwards that may have been a touchdown, rolling to his left. On the Jamel Dean near pick, Hurts had Quez Watkins wide open over the middle against 2-man coverage. He had beaten Carlton Davis. He had gone this way. That's a gimme touchdown. He didn't see it. He had time, but he didn't see it. He had a clean pocket, looked over the middle, and went this way. And I'm like, what are you doing? You've had over 20 starts in the league. You shouldn't be in this place. Outside of the Eagles RPO stuff, there really isn't much to hang your hat on yet with Hurts and the parts of the offense that he can sort of define. I want more from my quarterback at this point in his development. I'm probably looking to add at the position with an impact. And if I've got 3 first-round picks and I can package them for a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers, I mean, why not?
Yeah, I think if they go that direction, it would make sense, right? If you can bring in an established veteran, obviously both of those guys you just mentioned are future Hall of Famers, in my opinion. I'm not ready to give up on Hurts as a franchise quarterback just yet, and especially if they're thinking we can get a guy in the draft and kind of start this process over. I'm not going there. I don't know if I'd spend a first-round pick on any of these quarterbacks in this class at all. Obviously, a couple are going to go in that range because that's just how it works. But, I mean, there are 5 or 6 guys in this class that have some intriguing traits. But if I can't get Rodgers, if I can't get Russell Wilson, if that price is just too exorbitant or they want to go a different route and don't want to spend that much on the quarterback position and they think they have enough in Hurts to at least give him one more year, which I think they do, you use those 3 first-rounders to build around him, to build a better supporting cast, reload an offensive line that maybe makes him feel more comfortable sitting in the pocket again. It's not necessarily their fault.
It's not their fault. Dude, clean pockets all over the place. Why are you bailing? Why aren't you stepping up and yeah.
Right. So I think unless you can bring in that veteran and use those picks to that end, this is not the year to either take a quarterback in the first round or package those guys to move up. I don't feel any type of way about the quarterback class. So again, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, now you're talking. Otherwise, I think it's Hurts for one more year. Yeah, it really is. Now we're going to make our way over to the AFC to close things out, Doug. And, with what the Bills did to the Patriots on Saturday night, 47-17, wild card beatdown, historic in many ways, right? Buffalo became the first team ever to get through an entire game with no punts, no turnovers, and no field goals. Not just in the playoffs, but ever. Ever. No team has ever scored 7 straight touchdowns against the Bill Belichick Patriots defense. And that 47 points were the most ever scored against the New England team with Belichick as the head coach, right? So Josh Allen becomes one of 5 quarterbacks in pro football history to throw more touchdown passes than incompletions in a playoff game. I mean, that's a ridiculous list right there. So with all
and
this,
Kurt Warner, who's one of the other guys, gave him a shout out right after. That was nice.
Ridiculous, right? So keeping all this in mind, given the Bills' notoriously streaky streaks this season, right? We'll go up and down. It's a roller coaster, but are we buying into Buffalo as the team to beat no matter what here, or do we still need to see what they'll do against the Chiefs in the divisional round?
It's a valid point. One of the streak upticks was in Week 5, where I believe the Bills gave Patrick Mahomes the worst home loss of his career. Now, Mac Jones is no Patrick Mahomes, so the Bills will be dealing with some things there. Kansas City's defense is much, much, much better than it was in Week 5. New England secondary was very banged up. Why Belichick didn't... I'm second-guessing Bill Belichick here. Why they didn't play more zone in that game is a mystery. Belichick is obviously the greatest coach ever. He's not going to want to put that gameplay sheet in Canton. That said, the Bills team, as it took the field against the Patriots, looks very, very tough to beat everywhere. Josh Allen has basically become Kurt Warner as a passer and Cam Newton as a runner. Ton of design runs against the Chiefs in Week 5, by the way. I don't know how you defend that. The offensive line and run game uptick to good enough, which is all they need to be. The defense is looking very sharp from front to back. They especially have the safeties, and this is where it gets into play. Safeties become so important in the playoffs to me. The coverage concepts to foil both Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, who they may face. I don't think Tom Brady would appreciate them either. So, yeah, I'm in. I was all in when I picked him to win the Super Bowl before the season started. So why stop now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like there. And I think the biggest reason I would say I'm not ready yet is because I need to see what they do in Kansas City next week, because that's where the postseason run ended last year, right? So that's where they were weighed, measured, and still found wanting in their postseason run last time around. I want to see if they can pass that test this time around. Yeah, they beat them earlier in the season, but like you said, a lot has changed for Kansas City. On both sides of the ball, they're looking more effective than they were back then. So I think if you look at what the Chiefs did to the Steelers, it was very similar, I think, in a lot of ways to what Buffalo did to New England. Obviously, New England's a better team, but I hope either way we're in for an epic shootout in this one. I want to see those 2 quarterbacks go touchdown for touchdown pass and just give us an instant classic, but maybe they can make a believer out of me by avenging last year's loss.
And this is the year to do it because, like the Cowboys, the Bills are a team that might lose both of its coordinators, Brian Daboll on offense, Leslie Frazier on defense, to head coaching jobs. So it's now or never.
Absolutely, Doug. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us. We're looking forward to the divisional round next week. After that, we'll see you for another episode of 4 Down Territory. Once again, for Doug Farrar, I'm Luke Easterling, and we'll see you then.